Yo, what's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the More Than 2% podcast. My name is Nicole Stark. So glad you're joining us today. We are here, week 5, baby. So pumped about it. A couple things different if you're watching this, mainly for you. If you're listening, probably nothing too crazy. But a couple different things that are new. First, why am I here in this room? Fantastic question. I am not where I normally film the podcast. I'm literally in our guest bedroom of our house, which, by the way, I found out that it's a lot more comfier than this little stew I created in the room. Okay, I'm sitting on a comfy bed instead of a hard stool, and I'm comfy. Like this is the vibe. Low key might vibe out with this for some time right now because I kind of like it. So who knows, we might keep it, we might change it, I don't know, we just got to figure it out. This second thing, this podcast is all about private conversations in public. And currently, I have not had that delivered to you. I know, it's crazy. But next week, y'all, next week is the first guest. Super pumped about it. I was going to do it this week, I know. But here's the reason why. I felt like I wanted to share my story with y'all. I know it's crazy. But like we're 5 weeks into this, and you're my friends, my online friends, amigas, fam. So I figured, let me just tell you who I am, how I got here, my story. And so we're kind of just gonna dive deep into that. Also, I've filmed this thing so many times. I don't know what's wrong with my computer thing. It just keeps shutting down. So hopefully it doesn't shut down anymore. Okay, so anyways, we're gonna talk about my story. I'm just gonna give you guys a little bit more than 2% of my life. See what I did there? Killed it. You're killing it, Stark. Oh my gosh, y'all. Okay, pause. I watched Spider-Man last night. Oh my goodness. It is so oh my gosh, so good. I'm not going to give you any spoilers. No spoilers here. But go watch it. Highly recommend it, and then tell me what you think about it. But it's speechless. See that? It's epic. Go watch it. Okay. Back to my story. So it's like I don't even know how to get back from that because I just remembered how good it was. But okay, my story. How did I get here? I really want to talk about. So in the last couple episodes, really talking about. I've kind of mentioned here and there Jesus, right? I've just kind of dropped it in there, and I felt like today I really want to talk about how God has changed my life. Like how did I get here? How He changed my life? And so I'm gonna just give you my story, other known as a testimony, but we're just gonna keep it to my story for those of you who may not understand what that word means. Okay, cool. So where do I begin? Let me just start off with saying I was actually born in the Philippines. Fun fact. I lived there for 7 years, which is cool. And there's a story in of that in of itself, but I won't get into that. My parents met out there, and then I moved out here when I was 7 years old. Now, for the most part of my life, I grew up going to a Christian church. So literally, I used to live in Orange County when I was younger. And so there's a church that we just went to, and it was awesome. It was fantastic. It was super cool. I loved it. Nothing crazy, not like religious or anything, but just loves Jesus, super relational, right, with God. And so I went to church all the way up until I was in 6th grade. And when I was in 6th grade, my dad had his own business, and he used to do graphics for all the fairs like around us, which I think is super legit and super sick, right? And so anyways, he moved his business from Orange County, where we were currently living, to this little tiny suburban town in Rancho Cucamonga in the Inland Empire called Rancho Cucamonga. So I went there and I lived in Rancho from 6th grade to my junior year in high school, okay? And at the time, I loved basketball, yo. Like hands down, basketball is like the greatest sport of all time. Like you can't beat it. I used to play tennis and basketball, but then I had to choose one. So I ended up choosing basketball because who wouldn't, right? So I played basketball and I got really involved, okay? Like super involved. I played club, other known as travel, played travel ball. I played at school, all that stuff. So it was super sick. And so I played that 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. All right, I'm like speeding up the beginning because it's just the beginning. And then going into, finishing 8th grade, going into 9th grade was a very important part of my life because I just think it's such a pivotal moment of me. Okay, so much like a lot of people, by the way, going into high school is so pivotal because there's just so much going on. And so from 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, I didn't go to church, obviously, because we moved. So the commute was just so far. So I stopped going. And I kind of, honestly, if I could be completely honest, didn't really care. I was just like, whatever. This, like, at that time, I just thought, like, it doesn't really affect me. Like, I don't know. There's just no point, right? So we ended up not going. And I just did what every junior higher did, went to school, hung out with friends, played sports, repeat, repeat, and repeat. And then going into high school, so different because you're growing up, you're like going through puberty, going into high school, and you've just got so many emotions. Like your emotions are all over the place, and it's high school. It's like it's stinging scary, you know? And so going into my freshman year of high school, I dealt with a lot of things. Like I had a lot of anxiety, dealt with anxiety throughout my whole entire life. I dealt with lust. I was in high school addicted to pornography, kind of crazy, but there you have it. And I was just going through my own like insecurities and all that stuff, but nobody knew. I kind of kept it to myself. It really wasn't like this thing that I was posting on Instagram because that's just weird, right? And so going into my freshman year in high school, I was 13, okay? And that summer for basketball, made it to varsity, right? So throughout summer, I was going and I was doing all these things with all the varsity players in basketball. And obviously, as a freshman, as a 13-year-old, and you're with, 16, 17, and maybe, even 18 years old people, like they influence you, right? Like I remember I went into freshman year with like my eyes wide open. Like I just wanted someone to take me under their wings. And people did. Like it was awesome, and I loved, and I still do love all of my friends, all my teammates, and all that stuff. But nonetheless, I was exposed to a lot of things, right? Much like literally every person who goes to school ever. You're just exposed to everything. And so I remember going into school, I was exposed to a lot of things, and it just led me to this place where I was so like I was just so broken. It just led me to a place of brokenness. My parents at this time too were going through a very hard time with their marriage and all that stuff. And so I was just constantly in a state of like loneliness because I felt like I was just trying to have friends and have people and all that stuff, but I just like I didn't have anybody. Does that make sense? So I was constantly around people, but do you ever feel like you could be with a group of people but still feel like super lonely inside, right? Like that was me in high school. I felt like I knew a lot of people, I had a lot of friends, but yet like internally I was so lonely. And so I went through high school with this deep feeling of I just wanted to be loved. I just wanted people to notice me. I just wanted people to see me, and no one ever did. And I had friends, and I'm telling you, epic. Like some of like I love every person I met in high school and had all these relationships with because they're literally the coolest people ever. My teammates are, I literally look back to this day, I haven't talked to a lot of them, but they're like my sisters. Like if anything, if they were to call me today and said like, hey, I need help or whatever, I would probably drop everything and go because like we've just gone through so much stuff where I just couldn't imagine not being in their lives or with them in whatever needs. But to me, like by myself internally, I was going through so much. Like I was lonely, I was insecure. My sophomore year in high school, I remember the first semester of my sophomore year in high school, I'd cry myself to sleep almost every single night because I just couldn't handle the pressure of basketball and of school, and my home life was like crazy at the time. Like it was just insane to me, where I just got lonelier and lonelier and desperate for attention and desperate for love. And honestly, that's kind of how I fell into the things I fell into. My anxiety, my addictions, the things I was going through was all because internally I felt like no one saw me. No, like I had a lot of people around me, but I still felt alone. Another thing was I just felt so anxious and just I didn't have peace. Like, and I don't know how else to explain it, but I just felt like, yo, my life is the most unpeaceful life ever. And for some apparent reason, I thought like I just had to deal with that. Like that was just kind of life, right? So it was the weirdest thing. And anyways, that's kind of my life going into my sophomore year in high school. Just a hot mess, broken, insecure, and lonely. And dealing with anxiety. Like my anxiety was so bad. I don't know if you've ever had anxiety, but I would feel like the best way I could describe it was it felt like I had like a ton of bricks like just constantly laying on my chest. And I was constantly pretending that I was okay. Right? Like I never allowed myself to feel not okay, which by the way, I don't ever do, but that's kind of like how I guess dealt with it. And so it left me, I'm telling you, desperate for something. I mean, I was so broken, so hurt, and just in need of something. And I remember one day my mom was driving. She was in the minivan driving, and I was in the back seat. And she looked at me and she said, "Hey, I think it's time for us to go back to church." Now, hear me out here. I was like, "Girl, you're straight tripping." Now, I obviously didn't say that to her, but I literally was like, "Dude, she's tripping. Like, there's no way I'm gonna go back to church. Like, I don't know what church is gonna do for me, right?" Because quite honestly, I felt like people who went to church were so hypocritical. I was like, oh my gosh, like you have to be perfect. And then I also felt this no cap. I was like, dude, and I have to live by rules. Like these people don't know how to have fun, and it felt so unattractive for me. But I lost that argument because I was like 15 years old. So literally that Sunday, my parents took me to church, me and my siblings, and I remember sitting down. I'm not even a cap. I'm sitting down. All obviously didn't. I'm so shy. Didn't want to talk to anybody. But as soon as the whole service thing started, I sat down, second row, first seat to the second row. And I remember this lady was on stage and she was like popping off. I mean, just going, like, I remember sitting there and she was just going for it. I was like, bro, what is she like? It was so good. I don't even know. I don't even remember half the things she said, to be honest with you. But I remember sitting there feeling like, you're talking about something that I really want. Like, you're talking about this piece that I could have, that I don't have, that I want, but I don't know how to get it. And I remember I sat there and I was like, yo, that's legit. Like, that's epic. And I left. Like, service was over and I left. And nothing really changed. I was like, dude, that's pretty legit. Like, that's super cool. But I went on with my life, right? And every couple of weeks here or there, we would go back to, a church service. And I was like, dude, this is legit. This is cool. But I never really did anything to it. I was kind of just intrigued by it until there was this, I think probably, I don't know, maybe 6 months of us kind of going to church for, a week or two here and there. My parents, something drastic really happened. My parents lost our home at that point in my life. And we were living in this little, I call it the shack. Literally, it was one room. I took cold showers for 4 months. It was like awful. And we were living in this little place. And there's like this office on the side of the, this little shack looking place. And there's nothing worse than being lonely, insecure, like desperate for peace. Like I like, there's nothing worse in my life than all of that, and then my parents losing their home on top of it. Like there was just nothing worse to me, because I was like, dude, like I can't cut a break in life. Like I feel like everything that was going on was like this whole terrible thing and it sucked, right? And so I remember like one day I'm in this little shack, no one's gone. That is my dog who's barking, but I'm just gonna let him go because raw and real. And I remember one day my parents were gone and everything, and I just did this weird thing. Okay, so they're gone and I'm literally at a low moment in my life. Like I'm crying myself to sleep. It just, life to me was like, this isn't fun. Like I don't know what to do. Like and I really thought to myself, like there's no way my life is meant to be like this for the rest of my life. There's no way I'm supposed to live with anxiety and depression or fear and all. Like I was like, there's just no way I could live like this forever, right? And so I remember the time I went to church. It's crazy, but I remember the time I went and the pastor was like, you need to have like a real relationship with Jesus, right? And I was like, okay, well, what does that mean? And so I remember I went into the side office of this little shack, right? I closed the door because I'm pretty dramatic like that. And I literally, I'm not gonna lie, I got up. I was actually standing up. And I remember I looked up And I just said with like a loud voice, again, no one was home. I looked up and I just said, God, like if you're real, like show up in my life. I was like, just show up, because I was like, yo, this is not fun. And I went to church enough knowing that God's good. Like he's not up there in heaven like mean and wanting to punish us. Like I was like, if you're good, which I know you say you are, so like if you're good and you're saying I'm supposed to live a life worth living, like could you just show up, because life sucked. Like I was just like super honest, right? And I remember, check it out. I remember I just stood there in awkward silence. And I was like, is this it? Like, or is this it? And as I just stood there, I felt for the first time in a long time, like this weird peace. I don't know how to describe it to you, but I felt like I had peace in my life. And I just stood there and I was like, I don't know what to, like, I don't know what to do. And I remember I sat there and I was like, you know what? I'm going to give God a shot. I'm going to give him a shot. So I remember I got a Bible. I started reading in the book of John, literally start there. And I read one chapter a day. And I just said, yo, God, like, if you're really real, like, I need you to show up in my life. My parents at the time were, like, my dad was going through stuff and my mom was going through stuff. And their just marriage was super rocky. And I remember just feeling, like, hopeless. Like, is their marriage ever going to not be so rocky? I remember, am I ever going to get a house? Like, are we going to live in this shack for the rest of my life? And then the third thing, I was like, dude, am I ever going to get peace? Like I need this anxiety to stop. I want to be free from my addictions. Like is there any hope for me? And I'm not gonna cap y'all. The walk was so hard. It wasn't like this easy journey, right? But here's what I discovered from the moment that I just said, hey, can you show up in my life? I realized that Jesus isn't some God in the sky, like judging us, trying to like yell at us and tell us we're stupid and we need to figure life out. Like he is so kind and so loving, and he just wants us to go. Like I just realized that if you just invite him in, he'll meet you where you're at. Like God's not looking for you to get your life figured out and you have to abide by all these rules and you have to do all these things. He's just literally saying the way you are right now, that's how he wants to meet you. That's how he wants you to come to him. Like you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to like be like, oh, I'm this and I have to figure this out and I have to do this. He's like, literally come as you are. And that's all I did. I just came, my broken, insecure, tired, crying self. And I just said, if you're real, show up. And guess what? He did. And I just walked this journey of every day I would try my best to like pray and read my Bible. And I failed more times than I can ever imagine. But as I just got to know Jesus, not in a religious way, hear me here, but in a relational way, I realized, man, he actually loves me. And he loves me so much that he won't leave me the way he found me, but he'll lead me to freedom. And here I was, so broken, so insecure. And all of a sudden I started finding joy in him and peace. I'm telling you, there was no better feeling in my life than I remember this day when I laid on my bed and for the first time ever, there was no noise in my thoughts. There was no pressure in my chest. And I literally just had peace. It felt like the noise that was going on around me just calmed. And you know, all I did, and I know this sounds so crazy, it's like, what do you mean that's all you did? But all I did was I said, Lord Jesus, like come into my life and show me how to know you. And I think the best way I can describe it is, you know, when you have a friend, like a best friend, you only can really know your best friend when you have one-on-one moments with them. Like you're not really going to know somebody when you go to a party or whatever. And you're really not going to know Jesus if you just go to church once or twice or a couple hundred. Like the way you know somebody is when you are in those one-on-one moments. And so I literally just took a shot. I didn't know what I was doing. I was 16. I was like, bro, I don't even know if what I'm doing is like right. Like I don't know, but all I knew was I asked for help and he helped me. And sometimes I think like we think, well, I asked for help and he didn't help me. Well, try again. Like you don't just give up one time, you know what I mean? Or two times. And so I remember I just said, hey, you're real. So I'm going to get to know you in a relational way. And I literally would go by myself either to the park, buy a basketball hoop, or in this little side office. And I would read my Bible and pray as often as I could. And yeah, I just said, I'm going to get to know you. And guess what? because he's relational, crazy. You'll get to know him because he'll reveal himself to you. And so I'm 25. That was like, what, 9 years ago, 10 years ago. And my life, I can't even explain to you how different my life is from when I was in high school. And obviously, I'm not going to tell you, I guess, my whole entire story. I guess I'll just kind of leave it there. But moral of that part of my life was I was in this broken place and he met me in my brokenness. And that's what God will do. He'll meet you where you're at and he'll help you through that. And I think sometimes we think, well, that just doesn't make any sense and blah, 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 blah. I don't know about you, but when you have peace that you can't really explain to somebody else, or you've got peace and no one gave it to you, like it wasn't a drug, you weren't numbing yourself. And that's another thing, y'all. I ran to temporary things to satisfy my brokenness. I ran to guys, I ran to things on the computer, I even ran to Netflix. I would literally binge watch Netflix because I was so broken. I wanted to numb the hurt. I wanted to numb my pain. I was so anxious, I was so down all the time that the only thing I could do was run to something so temporary to satisfy it. And here's the crazy part. I would wake up the next day shameful. And like, I can't believe I did that. Like that's like a temporary high is just that, temporary. Like it doesn't last. And here's what I discovered is Jesus isn't going to give you a temporary high, but he wants to satisfy your deep desire. And I'm telling you, you won't know unless you give him a shot. So you could either stare or listen to me and be like, girl, you're crazy, or you could just give it a go and see what happens if you just give Jesus 6 months of your life. Just try it out. Just say, you know what? Every day I'm going to figure it out. And hey, go to church. Find a good church. I go to a Christian church. Find a good Christian church. I'm telling you, Jesus will change your life if you let him. If you stop limiting and thinking how hypocritical and all these things are, whatever, like that's what I thought. I remember my mom told me, I told y'all, I literally was like, dude, like, I'm not going to go to church. These people are weird. So don't be weird. Like, you know what I mean? It's weird, but like, I guess moral of the story and how I want to end this is just give him a shot. Just give him a shot. And that's what I did. That's all I did. I literally just said, hey, I need you, because nothing I'm doing is working. Nothing I'm running to, nothing I'm going to is working. And I need more to life than the anxiety that I'm feeling. And I'm 25 and my life isn't perfect. Still make mistakes, still sin, still do all that stuff. But God is good. And I'm telling you, when you go to him and you ask him to forgive you of your sins, like he's so good to forgive us. And so anyways, I hope this little story time of my story encourages you. If it doesn't, well, that's okay as well, I guess. But I guess I just want to give you a little inside scoop of my story, my testimony, and tell you that you're not meant to live life alone, and you're also not meant to live life broken. God came, he loves you, and he's saying, hey, just let me in, I'll meet you there. It doesn't have to be what we maybe make it to be or what culture maybe makes it to be. He is so good. Just invite him into your life and take the next step. Get to know him every single day. And I'm telling you, it'll change your life. Give Jesus 6 months and watch what happens. But anyways, I guess I'm just going to end this here. Thanks so much for joining. Oh, by the way, I'm wearing Grinch sweats. Random. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the episode today. I love y'all, believing in you, and hey, I'm even praying for you. So anyways, I'll see y'all, and see you next Friday. Okay, peace.